Yes, ma'am.
What impact does the Ag Commissioner have on CSAs?
As far as legislating what they can do, because I run a CSA, is that what we do? What she's saying is, what impact does the Department of Ag have on CSAs? And my guess is...
And a CSA is?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Community Supported Agriculture. So here's how it works. So I run a CSA out of my farm. So what you do is you buy a membership. So you're going to pay me money up front. So now you got skin in the game, right? And then what I do is I'll grow stuff for about 6 weeks, and you get a grocery bag of whatever I'm harvesting, like every Monday for 6 weeks. And at least with my CSA, you got to give me sweat equity. So you're either going to harvest, you're going to weed, you're going to can, you're going to come and cheerlead me on, but you're going to do something, because I want you to understand how hard it is what we do, right? And so what happened when all of us started stepping up and doing bees, and I'll use this as an example, when we were doing bees, in order to sell bees honey to the general public, those of us that were small bee folks, you had to have a commercial kitchen to process the honey. And most commercial kitchens will run you about $4,000 to $5,000. Well, let me tell you, I'd be selling honey till the cows came home to afford a commercial kitchen, so I'm not going to do it. So what beekeepers around, and you want people to keep bees, right? Because we want to pollinate stuff. So it was a deterrent for people to keep bees because they couldn't make any money selling honey because they weren't going to have a commercial kitchen, right? So what the legislators did this not this session, but the session before, is they gave you what was called the cottage bill that they passed. It's a cottage, kind of like cottage kitchen, meaning that you could process your honey in your house, like your cottage, and then you could sell it, and you just had to have a thing. This was not processed in a commercial kitchen. Love Kim, you know? And I sell out of honey every year, so nobody gets deterred. So things like that where you incentivize folks, and they're trying to do other things like that around the CSAs about how to do that. So again, that's where legislation can help by relieving some of the restrictions on it. Yes, sir?
Sticking on bees, have you had any issue with Africanized bees?
Okay, so I'm going to dispel. So Africanized, he asked me, have you had any issue with Africanized bees?
No, I mean.
So it used to be we used to test bees when somebody got stung or somebody got killed, because we had people get killed. And they don't even do that anymore. A&M doesn't test them. Because the bees came in, and what Africanized bees means, it's not bees that are going to attack you and stuff. What Africanized bees are bees that are bred to be very, very protective of their hive. Very. They're like, you know, sentries on red gold. They are, you get within 50 feet and they're on you, right? So what happened is they interbred with our nice and gentle honeybees, and then everybody became pretty aggressive, right? So what beekeepers are doing is when you, there's going to be way more information than you want, but when you order bees, you get what's called a nuke, which is 5 frames and a queen in there, and you grow your hive from that. And what beekeepers are doing is they're trying to breed more gentler queens who are a lot more fussy about cleaning themselves so that they don't die out. Because like, even as organic as I am, I lost half my hives this year. They left. I don't know what it is. It just kills me. But so that's what they're doing. So all bees have an Africanized strain in them. Just some are a lot more aggressive in protecting their hive, and I can talk about that if you want to know how not to get nailed by a bee, than others that are a lot more gentle. That's what that means.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions today. So lately there's been some controversy about the raw milk producers as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts about the, like, you know, are they correctly being legislated, or, are people trying to just suppress their right to raw milk, or?
That's one of the things that they're looking at doing in the legislation, is to getting rid of some of the restrictions around the raw. Because some people find the raw milk to be healthy healthy for them. I don't know a lot about it, but what happens is when someone asks me a question that I don't know, that makes me go research, because you won't be
delicious. I will tell you. It is delicious. Yeah, it is delicious.
She asked me about raw milk, and are the raw milk producers being suppressed? And you know, it's funny. Again, okay, so I got good news and I got bad news. Let me give you the bad news, and then I'll give you the good news. The bad news is I'm not a politician. But the good news is I'm not a politician. So I'll say things, and the politicians are going to go, So let's talk about milk. Now, we got dairy farmers in the state of Texas. I gotta be careful because, you know, I'm an ag person. But what they're finding is, and you have to be living in a cave to not know this, that if I give a cow antibiotics, because 75% of the antibiotics sold in this country go to animals. So if I'm giving a cow antibiotics, right, and it goes into the milk, and my kid drinks the milk and has earaches, and then I try to give my kid antibiotic, what happens? So mothers, oh, I'm hitting that theme again, imagine that. Moms who bring stuff into the household might want to look at, and if you say, I am not buying milk, eggs, you know, fill in the blank that have antibiotics in it, guess what? Purdue Chicken stopped putting antibiotics in their chickens. Because who said so? Who made that happen? Legislators? No. You did. You did. I am not buying this chicken. I'm not buying these eggs. I'm not buying this. Trust me. Your dollar bill speaks louder than almost anything else. So you have the power to send messages, and I go in and go, see, they told you they didn't want that. Here, let me help you now transition to something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah. I had another hand and...
Bill,
Get back here.
behind you.
Phyllis. Check your 6. I know pilots hate this. I don't know why I say it. Yes, ma'am.
My question concerns fracking. We have a huge controversy here and fought it and banned fracking in Denton, and then, of course, the legislature took it away. In my mind, in that cycle of life, if you've got cattle eating grass that has been rained down on by chemical from fracking, etc., let's just say mineral production, and we are feeding that to our children as well. And does the Agricultural Commission, if you were,
Queen?
when you are elected, Agriculture Commission, would that be a concern to preserve the lands for agriculture versus mineral production?
Yeah, it's kind of a, again, if you, so what she asked was, will you preserve the land for ag versus mineral production? You want to know what the average age of our farmers in the United States is?
70?
Close, 65. Okay, so if you don't have a generation to take over farming, what do we do instead?
Try to get money out of the land.
There you go. So it's just kind of this, you know, I can't farm till I'm 80, they say, right? So I either can rent it out to mega farmers, you know, this huge farming system, or I can pull something else off of it to help me in my retirement years. So you kind of have this dichotomy, but there is something, and I learned this by going out, it was in Hood County, where they talked about, there's a program in which you're saving the frontier. And it's kind of like me getting my pollinating seeds to help save my piece of land. It's like a conservation, and it's either under EQIP, or again, it's the USDA. But here's the thing. If you can't send somebody to Washington, D.C. to say, you know, what's the most precious thing on a farmer's land? Anybody? You think it's the seeds? The machinery? The person? I mean, I'm great, but I'm not that important.
Water.
Right? It's 4 inches of the soil,
Yeah.
right? So if I pollute it, if it washes away, if it's full of chemicals like you're talking about, I've lost my gold. I mean, it makes it like the surface of the moon. So there are things out there, things by things, I mean legislation in which in the Farm Bill, you could set aside money to preserve wild land and help pay off or help subsidize some farmers' retirement who will leave their land native. So, but you got to incentivize it. It just sort of happens that way. But that's a great question. All right. You see my work here is done. So I'm going to leave you with a story because no self-respecting pilot gets the stage without getting a story out of her, so there I was. All right, so it's 2003 and it's in Iraq. And I go to Iraq, and I'm part of the team, all-male leadership team, to rebuild the country. And at that time, we'd just taken Baghdad, and they weren't shooting at us, we didn't have green zone, and we weren't wearing flak vests. And anybody here been to Iraq? Yep. And it's like, why we can't invade Bermuda is beyond me. anyway, so we got the run of the country. I was in mosques and marketplaces and Iraqi homes. If you visit an Iraqi home, they are very hospitable people. They will share anything they have with you, and they'll serve you a small glass of warm, sweet tea. Kind of like Texas, but we put our tea over ice, right? And so, but in that part of the world, men and women segregate. Men go to the parlor, and the women and kids disappear into the back. So one afternoon, we found ourselves in an Iraqi home, true to form. Men go to the parlor, and the women disappear in the back. And I was torn. Parlor, kitchen. Parlor, kitchen. But if you want to build a sustaining democracy, who next you better talk to?
Women.
Say it with me, girls.
Women.
Not because it's right or wrong. It's just we demand different things from the society. So I followed the woman back into the kitchen, leaned in. I said, "You speak English?" "Yes, most Iraqis do." I said, "Tell me, what do you need?" She kind of sized me up and down. Had a little 9-year-old standing next to her, and she whips this kid around in front of her and puts those bear claws on her shoulder, and she goes, "The children." At the time, my little girl was 12 years old. I said, "Yes, the children. What can I do for you?" And the children tell me. And she draws a long sigh, and she goes, "The children, get them back in school. They're driving me crazy." I said, "Oh, honey, by August in America, we were ready to drop kick our kids out the front door." I said, but what did that mom know? Who's the future of Iraq? An educated woman is a force to reckon with. We now hope that gal's in Baghdad University somewhere going to be a part of the leadership of the new Iraq that's out there, right? But here's what else that mom knew. That if she could get out of the house, she could go to the market. If she could go to the market, she would buy produce from the guy who grows it. If she buys produce from the guy who grows it, he then can hire somebody else to help him work his field. If he can hire this kid, that means this guy's not on the street fighting the Americans that are trying to make their country democratic, right? If he can hire him, then he goes and he can spend his money on the local economy. You see where I'm going with this? It's not that hard. We just got to get out of the apartments.
They needed more women like you going out and communicating with the women in Iraq instead of the men.
But the point is, when we sit around our kitchen tables sometimes, and we're talking about all what's wrong, there's a lot wrong, right? There's a lot right. Because I have been to several countries where they didn't get it right. And their answer is always violence. This nation, this state, needs to be the example of how we have our differences, but yet we can come together and make this a great country. So you have a charge for 2018, and you have a charge for your runoffs. It depends on you. Thank you.